Yo, what's good, my fellow deadheads? It's your overlord, DEADMANVINCE, back with yet another video, and the setup is looking very different right now. The camera's just in a different place. I'm literally holding the microphone because I literally threw away the boom arm. The boom arm was dog shit, and I don't know where the space for this microphone stand is, but just a lot of reorganizing going on mentally, spiritually, and physically in my office. Just a lot of different things, right? But I have been enjoying Grand Cross again. I'm not going to get into the details of why I've been enjoying Grand Cross again. I guess have a separate video for that. But I have been enjoying Grand Cross again, and I've really just been getting into it, man. I don't know. And one of the big reasons is, my boy Light. He is a mod on my Discord server. He is a mod on YouTube for me. He does a lot for my channel, and I do want to thank him quite a bit. Every time he does something for me, he's like, yo, hey man, you're on that next step to be the best Grand Cross account. I'm just like, yo, at first, I didn't really care that much, but now I'm kind of like, yo, I really appreciate it, because I really just see the inklings of the greatness in my account. Because a little bit about me, my account, I started playing probably, I think I started playing a week after the game released, if not a month after the game released. But I remember when I joined into the game, there was a dude named Gen70S or something like that. That was the one who got me. He's not a content creator, but he was a viewer, and he was just a good luck charm. He brought a bunch of viewers and everything. But I'm reminiscing, I'm reliving things. I don't know. But literally, when I started playing the game, I remember Gother and Gallon's banners that came out. Because you remember they dropped Red Gother, who had the rank up ability, which was revolutionary for the game. And then we also got Blue Gallon, who had the truth mechanic, or the commandment mechanic. Was he the first commandment, actually? Huh. But he literally, wasn't the first commandment that they interacted with as well? Anyway, he had the mechanic where if anybody ranked up in front of him, then they would get turned to stone, right? So specifically to counter Gother, but obviously Gother far outlived Galland, of course. If they ever LR Red Gother, which they definitely will, because they have to at least LR one of every one of the sins to get that first initial round before they start repeating other characters, I believe. It's honestly crazy to me that they're LRing collab characters over their own original, IP kind of characters, right? But even still, I guess collab LRs are cool. I mean, I enjoy Millen very much. I'm not gonna complain, right? But yes, I just felt a little confused on it seems like the community has very mixed responses about LR Helbram, and I'm just here again to give you a little bit of background about the dead man and kind of just give you guys my input on it, because I remember back when Helbram was a very, very household name, a very, very strong PvP meta. I cannot remember when it was, right? But I remember Helbram really carried me really, really far in PvP, elite, non-geared, whatever, right? Helbram was just a super toxic, super deadly thing, right? And it was I think the team was supposed to be King, Helbram, Gother. So with Gother, hopefully, one of them merge and gets to Petrify, and then Gother can rank up the other Petrify, right? Or something like that. And man, don't even, dude, I'm just thinking about all the old metas now. Super cool. I remember when I used to care about PvP, trying out the Helbram team, or trying out the Pierce team with Meliodas and Lilia, right? Or trying out the Mono Red team with Arthur and Gother and Escanor, right? Or whatever. But, man, Grand Cross has come a very long way from those days, and I am very excited about LR Helbram. Helbram was one of my favorite characters. I have a lot of characters in my account that I had no business maxing out to the degree that I maxed them out, but I did anyway just because I liked him so much, right? And also, leave a like down below, because the Dead Man's traps look kind of like Goku's. Anyway, there were a lot of characters that I kind of just fell in love with in the game. I just liked how toxic they were, or just liked how they played and whatnot, right? So Helbram has a special place in my heart, and honestly, Helbram has a special place in my heart because my favorite unit in the game when I first started playing the game was when I got Blue King. And I was just like, they just giving us this dude for free? And he had heals, and he had freaking, Petrify, and he had the AoE ultimate, all these things. And I'm just like, yo, I was just a big fairy guy, I love fairies in this game. Fairies, if you watch 7 Deadly Sins, fairies are super overpowered, right? The 5 races, I'm sorry, are humans, goddess, fairy, demon, and then giants, right? And for a very long time, it felt like Deanne was very like not strong compared to the other Sins until she became like the queen of the Giants, right? But it feels like even still, you know, Bond had more power ups, right? Bond, and I guess technically this first one's not a power up because it happened before the show started. But Bond literally is immortal. First of all, that's already way more overpowered than being a giant. The fact that you literally can't die. We've literally seen Bond turn into smithereens and then come back from that shit, right? Turned into absolute nothingness and came back from nothing. Kind of like Andy from Undead Unluck. Right? But Bond is cracked. You know, Escanor is cracked for obvious reasons. Meliodas is cracked for obvious reasons. And all those guys are all the different races. So now I'm sitting over here like, I can't even say humans are weak because Bond and Escanor are just freaks of nature, right? Then you got Liz over here when she finally awakens her powers and shit. You know, goddesses are OP too. You know, Ladoshio, Mael, you know, all this stuff, man. But like, you look at fairies, and fairies just have the most opportunity to have like abilities. Like, bro, when you see King, you're like, damn, this man's spear has like 7 forms. Is it 7 forms? I'm sorry, I haven't watched 7 of the Sins in a very long time. I've been keeping up with 4 nights, but it has 7 forms, right? You're just like, yo, that alone is crazy. But not to mention, this man can fly. You know, Elaine had like, what was it called? It was called Tempest, was it? She can control the weather. You know, like they can do like fairies just have a very maniacal set of abilities before them, right? And you know, King had probably, I mean, second to Meliodas. Meliodas is the main character because you know Meliodas got his power back. Meliodas got Assault form back, you know, and then he controlled Assault form, and then he literally gets his what does he call it? His esoteric power or intrinsic ability or whatever when he becomes like Demon King mode, basically. Like he literally had the Demon King's energy flowing through his body. Like Meliodas had a bunch of power ups, but that's what the main character gets, right? King literally evolved like 2 times. He grew his wings. He grew his wings back and then grew bigger wings. But when he grew the bigger wings, man, you were like, what the fuck? That's enough of me glazing fairies. It has been 7 minutes already. Let me stop yapping before we get to 10 minutes and just talk about this album. I want to talk about the album, but I guess I might as well talk about the entire, you know, update because the update's not really on shit because apparently this is a dead week. Now, guys, I'm looking fucking huge. Anyway, I have not been playing the game consistently every single day, or I can't even say every day like them, but like I haven't been playing as closely as like, you know, somebody like Amazing or Marilli or Sora. There we go. I was thinking, who's the third one of the Unholy Triad? Because, not Unholy Triad, but like, you know, Nog doesn't make videos anymore, except for when he wants to come back for little hype moments, whatever. Anyway. But, guys, we're going to talk about this. So, 7DS 5.5 Anniversary Eve. This is confusing to me because what did 5.5 be last year? Because Escanor was the 5th year anniversary unit, and King and Deanne, or Kian, or however people want to call them, ding, they were the 6th anniversary unit, right? But we're getting a free banner, and they're going to be giving us Demon King and Hell for free. If you're a new player who just came in for the solo leveling collab, this is very phenomenal for you because not only are you getting Demon King and Hell, who are 2 dark units, because like they're not great anymore, but I mean like you can use him to try to get some inkling of a demon team or something like that if you want to. But again, they're not great. But I mean, extra characters are extra characters, and they all go towards box CC anyway, so it never hurts to have extra characters. Hawk obviously is like a jokeable unit. I feel like I've never even looked at the stats or the skills or the abilities on a Hawk unit, but besides the point. Then we have Helbram here, who just got his LR. Cool. Let's keep scrolling here. So this update is going to come on the... Is it the 21st? No. This maintenance is on the 16th. Where's the other? I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the JJK live stream, which I gotta make a video on that because that's just gonna be crazy. But yeah, we're getting this update tonight, literally. SSR heroes from this draw will be acquired. You are level 90. So guys, free to play players or new players, whoever. This is the main reason why this is so important for you because these characters are not just going to be in your possession, but these characters are going to be level 90 when you get them. These first 3 characters, literally, bird, deer, dogs. These are all the staple units for each one of those battles. Literally, this is the staple unit for rat or squirrel. Ratatasker is its name. And then who's the staple unit for Nidhogg? Oh, it's Freya. So literally, you have all the demonic beast battle units here. You got a few goddesses here. all the goddesses on this banner are kind of like whatever, but I mean, at the same time, they are good association links because they have their graces and their graces. So the reason why goddesses are just good if you're a new player and you have no idea, or you live under a rock, or you're just an asshole and you like to pretend that you don't know these things. The reason why goddesses are so good is because not only do they give you their stats when you put them in the sub slot, but also they give you their grace when you put them in the sub slot as well. Unless, you know, there's another version of the god, which there are weird cases like that. But besides the point, right? So that's why that's good for free-to-play players, because, you know, graces are pretty solid. They kind of revolutionized the game whenever they came out. This Tarmiel right here in particular is going to be goated for you because his link is still one of the best links in the game till this day. Man, I feel like I'm doing an infomercial right now, holding this microphone up and everything. But Roxy's solid because her unity effect is great for humans. Anashi's a great backline till this day. To this day! Anyway, Freyr is another unit who's good for dogs and good for a few different demonic beast battles. And also, Blue Freyr that's out right now is certainly a skip, but when you do eventually get him later, because they always do put fluff units on all the banners in the future, that's just how gacha games work. And you know, you're going to be summoning for a very anticipated character that you really, really do want, and you're not going to get them. And you're going to get a couple copies of Blue Freyr. One aspect that I think people forget about is, even if you don't care about the unit, there's still box CC. And when you get this Freyr and you unlock his UR and SSR costume, that's just 2 more costumes for the Blue Freyr. Once you get him, and you know, you get his SSR and UR costume, that's 2 more costumes for this Freyr, all box CC. Very good synergy system of box CC. That's another one of the things that kind of brought me back to Grand Cross, is grinding my box CC. There is always an overarching thing that you can do to kind of like consume your time, right? Consume your effort, right? And guys, to be transparent, I have deleted Dokkan 3 times in this celebration because I fucking hate Dragon Ball Super, and I especially fucking hate the fucking Future Trunks saga. So I'm just like over it at this point, bro. I'm just like, y'all gonna keep rinse, wash, and repeating. Y'all gonna keep rinse, washing, and repeating from Dragon Ball Super when Dragon Ball Super is dog shit. Yes, get over it. Be real. The story's dog shit. It's just all hype, and honestly, it's not that hype, bro. Anyway, compared to doing things like, you know, LR Kid Buu or an LR, you know, Vegito that's like base Vegito and then turns Super Vegito on his interest animation. He can link whatever Vegito. Just very, very simple ideas that are very easy to execute. But instead, they rather rinse, wash, repeat on Dragon Ball Super. I'm going to try to keep the cursing down from this point because I kind of let a lot of rage out with that, you know, I rage when I rage, bro. But yes, I've officially deleted Dokkan like 3 times at this point in the celebration, and literally the last time I deleted it, I was like, let me put it on this other device that's not my main device. And then I was like, nah, I'm not even gonna bother downloading it, right? I still watch Truth's videos, I still watch Nano's videos because I love them as content creators and they do a very exceptional job, and I have respect for their craft. But JJK Phantom Parade is now my game for that. And also, guys, I just realized this microphone actually doesn't have this filter on. Let me grab my filter real quick and then continue to see if that helps the audio in this video at all. I don't know. Hopefully the mushroom tick makes it a little better. Pause. Anyway, but yes, I've officially deleted Dokkan, and I am pretty much tunneling all of my focus that I was giving to Dokkan irresponsibly, stupidly, and now putting it into Grand Cross because it's just a funner game to play, literally. And I actually like 7 Deadly Sins as an anime more than Dragon Ball Z. Oh, Deadman said it. Yeah, I did. I don't care. Anyway, rest of the characters on this banner: Red Gallon, Poo Poo. Honestly, everything below the goddesses are like kind of just like not really justifiable. Besides, you know, Helbram, of course, and these 2 are newer demon supports. But yes, still a good banner because they all come at level 90, and that's literally just free GP and free CC. Yes, sir. That's bars. Anyway, I also have a weird premonition that whenever they do finally try to bring demons back, which will probably be way down the road whenever it's like, you know, a Tristan who's going crazy. But also, the next thing coming up is the Holy War Festival, which I was just watching a Gogo video, and he said, oh, there's another dude I forgot, Gogo. Oh my gosh, I watch Gogo all the time. But he said that Holy War Festival typically means OC or 7 Deadly, or maybe he just said 7 Deadly, right? But honestly, Holy War has to mean 7 Deadly, right? Because the Holy War happened during 7 Deadly Sins. There is no Holy War, going on in Fortnite's Apocalypse. That's being literally called a Holy War, right? But we continue on past the banner. You get 60 points in, so 2 multis. You get the Demon King, which I believe I still don't have him 6'6", so that's good for me. At 120 points, you get your boy Helbram at level 90 already. So all you have to worry about is getting him 6-star Super Awakened. and then getting him level 100, and then you have the access to getting him LR if you have the ability to do that. Probably not as a brand new player. Then right here we can see 180 points gets you Wild. Is that his name? Wild. Then 240 gets you the Dark Hell. I was about to say the Black Hell, but that would have, she's not black. Anyway, the Dark Hell. And honestly, Dark Hell is like, I wasn't really playing the game too much whenever it was her heyday, but she's definitely far past it at this point. Green Hell, if you have Green Hell, yeah, do that. But like Dark Hell is kind of like whatever. This is it for this little patch of notes right here. Let's go back and find the correct thing with LR Helbram, because I thought that was in this, but it's not. Actually, I was in the LR Helbram thing. I think I just clicked on the banner instead and specifically went to the banner. But guys, LR Evolution Helbram unlocked. Reincarnation of Revenge, Fairy Helbram. All right, very excellent. Red Helbram, and honestly, so I saw that people either wanted Blue Helbram or Green Helbram because they were saying that Blue Helbram and Green Helbram were just good supports, right? And oddly enough, here's my confusion. Everybody is saying, it feels like everybody is coming to the consensus that Helbram is like either like mid or like bad, but not like good, right? And I'm just confused why we think that. Let's kind of take a close look here. So Helbram's passive used to be very, very dog shit, right? And it used to be increased basic stats by 5% per each surviving ally. Now his passive, working from the back, and this didn't work from the back line, which it didn't really matter because he couldn't really like, you know, bless up with that for real from the back or anything like that. But now, this man has a monolith for a passive. First of all, just very big improvement. Increases fairy allies' attack-related stats by 7% for each ally participating in battle. Very, very big improvement because he was never buffing anybody else in the first place. This already is a major W. Works in the back line, does not work in deathmatch, but I mean, like, is anybody looking for more meta-relevant ways to crush deathmatch, or do we not already have all the units for that? You literally have Hero's Way that gives you all the units you need for deathmatch and Demonic Beast Battle basically at this point anyway, so it's just like, who really cares about that? Okay, if all allies are fairies, including those in the secondary slot, and guys, I want to clear up some confusion. For the longest time, I believe that secondary slot meant all of the units in the sub slot, right? All of the link units, right? Those aren't the secondary slots. Proof of this, let me continue reading. If all allies are fairies, including those in the secondary slot, enemies who use a skill will be inflicted with the Stone Needle effect for 5 turns. Enemies who use a skill will be inflicted with the Stone Needle effect for 5 turns. So whether Helbram is in the front or in the back, if the entire team is fairies, people will lose 7% HP related stats every time they use a skill. That's kind of wild. That's kind of wild. I'm going to be honest with you. Because when you lose life steal, you're not looking at as threatening whenever you're attacking. When you lose regeneration rate and regeneration rate and recovery, doesn't that also make the amount that you heal after you take damage go down? And doesn't it also lower the amount that you get healed for when somebody else heals you? So I think that this will actually play some useful role, and this stacks up to 4 times, so you can lower somebody's HP related stats by 28%. Minus 28% on lifesteal is a pretty big damper, I'd say. But here's where the proof is, right? When the hero enters the battle from the secondary slot, you cannot enter the battle from the support slot on units. For the longest time, I have thought whenever a character said you need secondary slots, and this may just be a me thing, I don't know, but I've always thought that when it says you need a character in the secondary slot, it is talking about the sub-slot units, right? Because a lot of people sound like they're saying, damn, the entire team needs to be fairies, including the sub-slots? Yeah, the sub-slot is just the backline. We've been calling the sub-slot the backline, the secondary slot, the backline this entire time, but the backline is the secondary slot. And I'm going to go into the game actually and show you guys even further distinction that shows it to be true. But yes, this is proof right here, confirmation that the secondary slot does not mean sub-units. So that means that you could still have a fairy team and have all goddesses as like the supports to give really diabolical graces to all of the characters. So I think that one of the reasons why people think that Helbram maybe is not a good unit is because they think that he is restricting your team to a very high degree because every single thing on the team needs to be fairies. That's not true. Just the 4 units you are using in battle need to be fairies. But, and guys, if I'm wrong, I'm very sorry. But when they say when a hero enters the battle from the secondary slot, and literally they have never added a mechanic into the game that allows units to come from the link slot to the main battlefield, then what else is the secondary slot, right? So that means that people have probably been building their team around Merlin, right? Because Merlin has a relic that says all the units, even the secondary slot, have to be. We'll look over that to be sure. But yes, so this just means that everybody on the team, if they are fairies, including the 4 people attacking, not the linkers, right? If all 4 of those people are fairies, and this happens, so that's a lot easier, right? This is a lot easier when your team just needs to be fairies, and not everybody in the sub slot needs to be fairies. Okay, when the hero enters the battlefield from the secondary slot, all stone needles are removed from all enemies at the start of the ally's turn. Only one time though. So Helbram does have some sort of like a comeback mechanic, which is funny because there's Green Helbram has not a comeback mechanic, but he has like a mechanic where he dies and then restores a little bit of HP, has like kind of like an extra life. Well, this instead is kind of like saying, hey, somebody just died on your team and now you're at a disadvantage, but like now that Helbram's out here, we're gonna try to turn the tables a little bit. So now they have given this man kind of like he is excellent as a backline for that reason, for certain. Yes, because when he comes in, he has the possibility to petrify somebody if they have 2 or more, or everybody gets their eternal stone needle removed, and of the enemies that had 2 or more stone needles removed in that instance, the enemy who had the most stone needles, so whoever used the most skills, or whoever would be the most impactful on your team, because wouldn't you use the most skills, the most important unit on your team? Wouldn't you be trying to do the most damage with that unit because they're the strongest, or wouldn't you be trying to support the most that unit because they're the strongest? This could also influence a meta where people are now using shitty characters on purpose and stacking all of these different, spamming, attacks at one character, but also at the same time spamming it with their worst character on their team, so that whenever Helbram does come in, the unit that's petrified is the worst on the team. Does that make sense? Right? I can see where people would try to use shenanigans like that. But let's see. Fairy allies damage dealt increases by 50% when there's a petrified enemy. So this man's passive is just monstrous now. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, Helbram is not one of the most god tier, top tier damage units, sure. But I think that he is a solid enough damage option to be secondary to Lancelot, secondary to King of Diane. And yes, he is looking like a backline unit right now, but I'll explain why I say secondary damage, right? Okay, cool. On his skill 1, which is the ult gauge removal skill, still has the ult gauge removal. Oh, wait a minute. We missed this because everybody's been missing this because it's not highlighted in red. But his skill used to do 120% damage and take away 1 ult gauge on level 1. Now it does 132% damage, so a 12% damage increase. Okay, whatever, right? The thing that people are missing is on the second level of his skill, the 2-star, it used to do 300% damage. Now it does 330% damage, but also it removes 2 ultimate move gauge orbs instead of 1 ultimate move gauge orb. And I feel like all of the content creators have not pointed out that specific thing, which, okay, cool, whatever. 1 extra ult gauge orb, but I mean, like, 1 extra ult gauge orb, where you didn't have it being taken away, that's cool, that's different. That's not different, but it's the same thing literally. It's just extra. But it's like, it's good. It's good that they're making it so that it's like 1, 2, and 3 instead of just 1, 1, 3. Right? It feels very unbalanced for it to jump up to 3 for the 3rd level, but not get to 2 in the 2nd level. I don't know, but now they have amended that and fixed that, so that's very good. Let's see if that wasn't a typo, and let's see if that carries over to the game. Hopefully it does. And then the last skill does an extra 45% damage. Nothing to write home about, really. This skill now has triple crit chance, which, I'm gonna be honest. The Petrify skill and the ultimate skill, back in the day when I was using Kingdom, bro, them shits hit hard, in my opinion. It obviously different meta and everything, but still, as an LR character, his stats are literally going to be increased even more so. My Helbram right now is pushing about 61k CC. I'm expecting maybe like 70k whenever he gets the LR. I'm not sure yet. How big is the jump in CC whenever a character LRs? But anyway, we still have Petrify on level 2 and then a 2-turn Petrify on level 3, so those effects have not changed. Could you imagine if they added Petrify on level 1 on this? Motherfuckers would be mad. But I gotta watch my mouth though. What did I say, chat? Anyway, extra damage on the skill as well. This one used to be 200, it's 220. This one used to be 200 as well because it added on the Petrify, which is a very good trade-off for instead of adding extra damage. But now it's at 220 as well, and it's sever damage, obviously. And then it's also 250% right here, but then it goes to 275% right here with the sever damage. And guys, people are kind of just like scoffing at the sever damage, and I'm just like, I think it matters. I don't know. I think I think a skill having 3 times crit chance versus it not having 3 times crit chance before, and I'll go look at Helbram's crit chance just to see if his crit chance is already really high. Because if it's already really, really high, then I guess it's kind of like whatever. But I mean, crit resistance has gotten really high too. You know, stats as a whole have gotten a lot higher in the game. So, you know, triple crit chance just never hurts. You know, it feels a lot better to have something that makes it feel like you're more guaranteed to get your crits. I don't know. Maybe I'm just yapping. But let's continue on. His ultimate move didn't get a damage buff, which that was a bit disappointing for certain, but it cancels buffs and stances on enemies. Has always done that, but it does remove all debuffs from allies. So just an extra little cleanse there, just in case, you know. You can now rush his ultimate for a utility purpose, right? Versus, you know, just trying to do some extra little tiny bit of damage to add on or cancel a buff or a stance. I don't know. I think that LR Helbram sounds great. I really do. Now, let me talk to you guys about compositions, because everybody's like, is he gonna replace Beta? Who the hell is he gonna replace? I'm gonna go back over to my game and we'll talk about it. All right, ladies and gents, here we are. So everybody's talking about keeping their front line the same, you know, and everybody has different variations of this team. You know, Fairies is overflowing right now. Their cup run is over right now. They had the collab Fairies, they got Kian, they got Lancelot. If you have him like really high, you know, dupes. My Lancelot is only 1 out of 6, but Lancelot is literally like my new favorite character because he's Bond's son, and Bond was my favorite character, bro. Like, I'm just a Bond laser, I guess. I don't know, bro, but like Lancelot's just so cold, bro. But like, it sucks that he's not as, you know, cracked right now. But basically, everybody is talking about, I'm not replacing Beta with Helbram. Let's take a quick look, right? Or honestly, let me just break down my idea with this team. With this team right here, because Alpha is a very good support for Fairies. I actually read over her kit, and I actually kind of had to like fight the idea of actually kicking her off the team. But one thing that I realized is she is more of a like defensive style support, right? So her passive applies a misform on applicable allies. Well, it increases her stats by 8% for each fairy, which is just a self buff type of thing. So that's not the important part. The important part is that she gives a misform to fairy and shadow allies, or not. Yes, fairies and then just shadow, right? She gives a misform to applicable allies, and misform only takes damage from basic attacks when attacked. The effect is removed after 2 attacks. When the effect is removed, the crit defense of the hero it is removed from is increased by 40% for 2 turns. When applicable allies use 3 or more skills during their turn, the suppressed damage taken effect is applied to applicable allies for 1 turn, and the suppressed damage effect means that your damage that you take cannot exceed 50% of your max HP, which is an incredible buff for your team. Yes, but what I'm saying is, if somebody was strong enough to one-shot your character, unless you had Tarmio Link, wouldn't they just be able to 2-shot your character instead? I mean, like, yeah, you make them use an extra skill. Yes, that is useful, of course. But what I'm saying is, Alpha support is a bit more defensive, right? Because she gives everybody extra damage reduction. She's increasing, you know, crit defense. All of her buffs that are boosting attack are for her herself. The reason why I think that replacing, and I think that it interchanges, right? So say you wanted to put Alpha in here and make it a more defensive team. I think that team is going to be a lot better going second, right? Because you have the capability to get those defensive mechanics off. But let me just conceptualize something for you guys. And damn, oh man, yeah, that arm actually isn't getting tired. Damn, the gym is paying off, brother. But here's my idea, right? With Kian here, Ding here, their passive literally gives you a buff, or I guess I should start with Beta actually. I'm sorry. Beta's passive is, oh, not that. For each applicable ally participating in the battle, their basic stats are increased by 6%. So already with Beta in the back line, fairies are getting 6% extra stats for each fairy in battle. So that's 18% to their stats automatically from her being in the back line. And if you're doing like a weird PvP mode or just a different type of game mode where there's 4, like Heroes Arena, if she's on the battlefield with them, then all of a sudden everybody's getting 24% to their stats instead of 18%. Very, very good. Cool. For each buff applied to an applicable ally, their attack-related stats increase by 4%. So, if every... Yes, so that the way that I'm reading this is, and it says limit 4. Yeah, that makes sense. So if all of your allies, if everybody on your front line had 1 buff, I believe that this is 12% boost to their attack-related stats as opposed to one unit needing 3 buffs. That's how I'm reading that, right? I could be misunderstanding. Dude, whenever new characters come out, I literally just watch Morelli's video. I watch Amazing's video, man. And I see their teams and I just kind of put the team together. I really don't think about it. I just kind of like, I can just kind of get an idea just reading off the card skills. I really don't be reading passes anymore because them shits be fucking, you need a PhD for that shit. No, you don't need a PhD for that shit. It's just, I just be lazy for real. But I've been reading more. When applicable allies take damage, they recover 15% of their max HP at the start of the ally's turn. This right here is certainly why you cannot take her out of the back line, because that's just too impactful right there, too crucial in my opinion. When the hero enters the battlefield, the shadow effect is applied to the applicable allies for 2 turns. So you don't want her to enter the battlefield. You don't want your team to die. But I mean, it's cool if she does die, and if somebody does die and she does come in, right? All more power to you. But realistically, what you want is a clean sweep before you pop out. But let's retrace all of the buffs you're getting from alpha, or from beta. 6% buffs to stats. So attack, HP, defense, cool. Then 12% buff to 12% buff to attack related stats if everybody is getting buffed. Now, why do I say that like everybody's automatically going to be buffed? Because at the start of battle, Kian literally give Giant Queen's protection as a buff for the first turn. Now, I'm not sure if that is for 1 turn. Now, is that a gray debuff? Is that a gray buff? Is that a blue buff? I believe it's a gray buff. But does that still count? A buff is still a buff though, right? Does that still count towards it? Let me know that down below in the comments. Actually, these are the little parts in my video where, you know, I am very well professed in Grand Cross, you know, but you know, there are a few mechanics that I have not really been interacting with too much, and like I probably weaned off the game a little bit whenever they started adding in gray debuffs and stuff like that. Gray debuffs and gray buffs, right? But at the end of the day, they get a buff as soon as the fight starts. So if this is working how I am thinking, everybody gets a buff at the start of the battle, and that is automatic 12% extra stats from beta in the backline as soon as you start the fight. Not to mention, King and Deanne are also adding 15%. Participating allies stats are increasing by 15%, and then King and Deanne are getting an additional 14% stats from each hero, increasing all stats of the hero duo by 7%. Each hero increases basic stats of applicable allies participating in battle by 15%, and then each hero increasing all stats by hero duo by 7%. That's really confusing how that reads. I feel like they needed to separate those 2 lines a little bit better, but it seems to me like everybody gets 15%, and then they get 14% from everybody else being on the battlefield. If you're in a game mode where there are 4 people on the battlefield, then they get 21%. You know, cool. So that is already a 12% attack related stats buff from beta in the back line. That's a 18% buff from beta in the back line. That's an additional 15% from King and Deanne in the front, and then they're giving themselves an additional 14%. Then also, if you look over, Lancelot doesn't really have any like outstanding buffs that he gives to like everybody else. His is more like trying to build a buff on himself. But also right here, insight, applicable allies. Dude, I've been missing this part of Lancelot's passive this whole time. This motherfucker is buffing too, bro. So y'all can see what I'm saying here. Pretty much what I'm going for is like just like a buff stat overload turn 1, right? Because beta or alpha is, like I said, a better defensive support. But if you have 2 UR festivals who are both like anniversary units, and you have an LR, your combat class is gonna be way higher than if you were running like Sid and Alpha and I can't even think like LR, you know, if you don't have Kian, LR King or whatever, but you should have Kian. You should have saved for that. You should have been there for that. But literally the only point that I'm trying to make is they're gonna have a higher CC, so you're probably gonna get more first turns. And this all is dependent on the range of PvP you're in. Like the range of PvP I'm in right now, I'm certainly gonna be going first if I LR this Helbram and put this team up like I'm looking at it right now. But like, bro, on top of all them other stats I just talked about, because Lancelot, whenever he or somebody has insight, because insight is himself. He has insight for 3 turns. For those 3 turns that he has insights, applicable allies, which are 4 knights, fairies, and humans, take 30% less damage. So everybody's gonna be tanky already from that. Him and Alpha in combo would be great, yes, but they still have some tankiness from this, considering the extra stats they're getting as well. We're going to skip the human part, but fairies and fairy allies, basic stats plus 5% for each one participating in battle. So literally, Lancelot, King, Lancelot, King and Deanne, and then Helbram are all going to be getting an additional 15% to their basic stats because of Lancelot. And then the cherry on top, to top it all off, if you have Helbram's Holy Relic, bro, you're giving fairies another 20% stats. Not to mention he's giving them 7% attack-related stats for each one participating in battle. So I don't think that Helbram is actually as bad as everybody is thinking. Is he a run to the polls, you know, max this unit out first? No. But I think it is unjust to say that he is mid or bad. He seems actually quite good for fairies in my opinion. I just think that he's going to work a lot better than people are giving him credit for. And again, I think that people are, one, missing the fact that this skill on level 2 does now take away 2 ultimate gauge, which isn't that big of an improvement, but it is still a bigger improvement than what people were expecting. And also, just the fact that everybody in the sub slot does not have to be like this right here. Boom, you see this? You see how these 3 are called the main slot, and then this is called the sub slot? This is the secondary slot. Even further proof, because these guys are kind of like under this banner over here, and then she's literally separate and she has her own little icon over here. And we know that that is the sub slot because these units do not show up in battle. So this is the secondary slot here, guys. These are not the secondary slots. Again, secondary slot, you've never seen a hero come from these slots down here. So these are not the secondary slots. These are literally just association links. That is all that is. So let's get our terminology correct. This is sub slot, backline, secondary slot. This is association links, right? So you do not need these units down here to be fairies for your team to absolutely go crazy with Helbram. This is enough for your team to go crazy with Helbram. And guys, I know you see this man here. I'm low-key trying to get this man like maxed out now, just so that Helbram's ultimate hits that much harder. And also because if you use the actual link that changes their ultimate, their fate link, that's what it's called. If you use their actual fate link, the fate link actually gives them an extra 1000 combat class as well. So that is just going to help me to push my combat class a little bit more. I'm literally working on gear for this man right now, but that's probably not going to be who I'm using for the first part. Also, I am considering breaking bread and buying these cosmetics here at some point in the future. He does not have weapons as well, so my Helbram has HP defense. I might give this man an attack crit set just to increase Helbram's attack from the association link, because you know it's gonna take 10% of his stats. I always want to call him Jericho, but he's Gustav. Jericho's brother. But yes, I think Helbram is gonna be an exceptional unit. I think he's gonna be perfectly fine. I think that, and I'm only going this hard right now, like bro. I have to go to the gym at 2 a.m. tomorrow. It is my bedtime right now, and it is 7 p.m., 7:09 to be precise. And I was sitting in my room watching some videos, winding down, and I was just like, yo, and guys, my computer was unplugged, deconstructed. My desk was literally cleared out for me to study. Like, I had books all over this desk, and I have another table in my room, so I got books over there. It's whatever. I'm gonna reorganize my book area over here and turn this into like a halfway computer video game / halfway study area, right? I want the feng shui in here to be a feng shui that influences productivity, but also can influence fun if I feel that it is necessary, if I feel that I've earned it for the day. But back in the day, like I said, Helbram, man, that was my cheese and my bread and butter. I was gonna say my cheese and crackers, but that's not the saying. It was a very cheesy comp though, for sure. But yes, I've just been kind of focusing on different individual teams and stuff, and I guess I can have a different video just talking about like kind of like my journey in Grand Cross right now, right? Because you know I think those videos are kind of cool too. But yes, I think that the Helbram team is going to be absolutely exceptional. I think it's going to make a comeback because now we have an extra option for Petrify, and we can literally use the talent first turn, petrify somebody with the first attack, and then literally, if we use single targets on everybody else, they're going to be 50% damage until that unit becomes unpetrified. So just think about that. I think that this team synergy like this is going to work a lot better than people are thinking. Everybody's been thinking about it like this, and then, you know, Alpha right here, right? But I think we need to think a little bit more outside the box. What if, even though he is a backline unit now, what if we did still try to put him in the front? Because originally he was not a backline unit. So I am still going to sit here and believe that I can use him and make him useful in the front line. And again, I think that he will be also good damage alongside Kian, Ding, and Lancelot. But guys, that is enough of my yappings. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that it was informational for you, especially the part where I went over the forum. I hope that was informational for like newer players. But that's gonna be it for your boy DEADMANVINCE. Like I said, it is my bedtime, but the dead man does love you. So y'all have some sweet dreams. Peace.